king doth wake tonight, and takes his rouse, keeps wassailing the swaggering up spring reels. And as he drains his draughts of Rhenish down, the kettle drum and trumpet thus bray out the triumph of his pledge. I merriest, but to my mind, though I am native here and to the manor born, it is a custom more honored in the breach than the observance. This heavy-headed revel, east and west, makes us traduced and taxed of other nations. They clip us drunkards, and with swinish phrase soil our edition. And indeed it takes from our achievements, though performed at height, the pith and marrow of our attribute. So oft it chances in particular men, that for some vicious mold of nature in them, is in their birth, wherein they are not guilty, since nature cannot choose her origin, by their o'ergrowth of some complexion, oft breaking down the pales and forts of reason, or by some habit that too much o'erleavens the form of placid manners. That these men, carrying, I say, the stamp of one defect, being nature's livery or fortune's star, his virtues else be they as pure as grace, as infinite as man may undergo, shall in the general censure take corruption from that particular fault. The dram of eel doth all the noble substance of a doubt to his own scandal. Angels and ministers of grace, defend us. Be thou a spirit of health or goblin damned, bring with thee airs from heaven or blasts from hell. Be thy intents wicked or charitable, thou comest in such a questionable shape that I will speak to thee. I'll call thee Hamlet, king, father, royal dame. Answer me. Let me not burst in ignorance, but tell why thy canonized bones, hearsed in death, have burst their cerements. Why the sepulchre wherein we saw thee quietly inurned hath oped his ponderous and marble jaws to cast thee up again. What may this mean, that thou, dead, coarse again in complete steel, revisits thus the glimpses of the moon, making night hideous? And we fools of nature so horridly to shake our dispositions with thoughts beyond the reaches of our souls, say, why is this? Wherefore? What should we do? Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. It's a nice reading, nice lines. I did those lines on my first video, my niece interrupted me right at the end. Right, this channel is dedicated to discussing, right, the nature of reality as a whole, and the nature of my reality. Right, it's dedicated to processing my pathological relationship with Quentin Tarantino. I wrote Quentin a series of letters about playing the lead in the movie Critic, which set into motion a sequence of events that led to him canceling the film and now has led to us being in this legendary psychic siege. Quentin is a powerful psychic clairvoyant, right? Surely the most powerful in show business. One of the most powerful in the world. I am the strongest clairvoyant of the millennial generation. Right? So, after I didn't give him what he wanted at a screening of Jackie Brown last year, right, in New York at De Niro Con, right, he and the people around him entered into a covenant to compel me to madness, right? Right? That he has done high evil, right? And he was evil adjacent for a while, right? And that's the contents of the novel. I've written a novel of my experiences on the psychic frontier with Quentin Tarantino, right? But after I turned it on him, right, boom, there's the board, right? Critical sorcerer, right? Psychic scientist, millennial dragon, right? After about a week of that, less even 4 days, he said, oh no, there's, right? Everything I've been telling you is a lie, right? It's all been bullshit. And I've been trying to come clean ever since. And after that occurred, right? After he said, oh no, like it's all a sick joke, right? Like everything's fucked up. You're like, no, it was all a joke on you. Funny, hardy, har. I had the thought, oh, what else is he prepared to do, right? To put me in the ground, right? And now he's really stepped into real palpable black magic evil, right? So I have a lot that I want to discuss on this video. What I'll say is I tried to make one last night, right? And so I wasn't able to do that successfully. And I know I upset my mother, but right? Doesn't matter. Right? My point is that if we say that I'm telling the truth, and I am, I always have been, all he can do is lie, right? Like all he can say is that I'm insane, right? And I suspect that answer is getting pretty hackneyed and tired. Then we have to accept that the condition in my mind and Quentin's mind is boom right there, that we're both right there at the forefront of our consciousness, right? And everything that he does, right, is in relation to me filtering the thoughts in his head, and everything that I do is in relation to him filtering the thoughts in my head, right? And so the contents of the novel, right, the novel's called Building a Coven, right, as in a coven of witches, right? Double bubble, toil and trouble, fire, burn, and cauldron bubble, right? Right? Quentin has 2 women in his life, right? Quentin has a coven of witches, right? And so they've been poisoning my mind, him and the people around him, right? And so the reason that I was unsuccessful in making a video yesterday is because, right, his hot assistant, whatever her name is, her and her partner, or whatever his name is, right, had a jolly old time. It's just a joke to them. It's just funny to them. And it's honestly, it's just sad at this point, you know, that he's, right, and he's done so much fucked up shit to me. Like, of course, like I understand watching me, right, but, right, newsflash, I have the right to talk about my life, right? And so, right, he poisoned my mind with a bunch of awful thoughts, and I never got any video that I felt like was appropriate, even though I went on and on a couple of times. One was 50 minutes, the other was 40 minutes. So I woke up early this morning, didn't hit a joint, right? And so we're doing it again, right? The weekends are always tough, right? Quentin gets coked out, right? Him and the people around him, and they are just as evil as they want to be to me. As evil or as not evil, right? Oh gosh, oh, how unfortunate, he's lost his mind, right? That's what he tells people. I know. And it's abrasively asinine to keep saying this thing, because he has nothing but his clever mouth, right? Right? I mean, he's stumbling over his words a lot more of late, I have no doubt. Right? So, right? Quentin reveals to the world how he is in this book. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the novelization, right? Charles Manson talks to Pussycat the way that Quentin and myself talk to each other, right? Telepathy. Right? And so another reason that we call the novel Building a Coven, right, is because, even though he never thought about this until I came into his life, but the things that people refer to as psychic, right, as clairvoyant as telepathy, telekinesis, psychokinesis, thaumaturgy, right, are the same things that people referred to as magic and sorcery in centuries past. They're not similar things. They're the same things, right? So, right, he plays his way, I play mine, but now he's stealing my tactics, right? That I heard him at Tribeca, right? Like whatever he wanted in Tribeca, of course it was easy, right? I could say something about it being a fucked up mind game, and that's true. That would be true. But, right, as the weeks continued to progress, right, and my guilt began to compound upon itself, I wanted to make it right. I wanted to show him that I felt bad, because I did respect him then. We don't respect each other now. No, it's just a sick, evil siege. That's all it is. Right? And so, right, when he did his thing, right, and jumped back into my mind, right, under the guise of a woman, right, I wanted to show him that I was listening. I wanted to show, like when I said, oh, you want me to come there and scream at the top of my lungs, right, because they hold court perpetually in my mind. It's fucked up. He said, yeah, right? And so I have no cunning. I don't operate like on a level of guile. Doesn't interest me, right? But obviously everything that he's done, right, is to be able to say, oh, he's insane. He's insane. See, it's good that he didn't give me what he wanted, right? And so now, right, we're going to talk about that. Right? If you recall, before we get there, right, I want this video to be dedicated to discussing the people around him, right, the people who have been aware of me, right, the people who are aware of me in relation to Quentin. Right, and so that's two factions, right? First is Sony, right? They're primarily, right? The second is the Los Solis 3, right? That theater, whomever checks the fucking mail, right? And the last is William Morris Endeavor, right? So, right, Quentin's been going out of his way not only to say that I'm insane, right? Like he can say that, right? That's fine. Like he can say, oh, that guy's crazy. That guy's insane. He doesn't know, right? He has no right to be on my film set, right? And then he can put that on a piece of paper and mail it to me with an NDA and a check for $4-5 million for my scene. I sent him a scene, right? And then he could be the aloof auteur that like needs people to read his mind, that's fine, right? But to say, oh, he's insane, and then conspire to compel me to madness, that's the ugliest, highest evil that anyone can do, right? And so, right, I posit, right, that he's up to here with it, right? And this is where my fear and uncertainty comes in, because he's not prepared for this to endure for 20 years. He's not prepared to lie to everyone in his life for 20 years, right? So, right, he tells Sony that I'm insane, right? Like, what do you... Quentin doesn't live in a vacuum, right? That Quentin was in production for the movie Critic, right? Was it pre-production, right? Doesn't matter, right? Where they were in the production, right? Right, that when he canceled the film, right, he was beholden to people. I allege it's Stacey Sharon, Sony Pictures. Right? You think he can just go, oh, nope, it's not right. Nope. I'm aloof. I'm the Hollywood big shot. No, they're spending money. They're spending millions of dollars. They expect him to explain himself. right? And so he told them, there's a guy reviewing movies in protest. I'm going to go with this guy. Let's take some time to figure out how I can, right, unveil him to the world, right? And so that's, right, that's where Tribeca comes in, I guess. And like, it seems ridiculous to me to set up a screening, set up a panel, right, where you make people buy tickets, right? You tell the administration to some event, oh yeah, like, no, this is what we're gonna do, and then just let it all rely on your psychic bullshit mind power, right? That's, right, like it's absurd to me, right? So, right, he set up this screening of Jackie Brown, right, to announce me as long as I ate his ass. Right? And so I was prepared to do that. I had my 10 questions ready. He wanted me to question him about his book, Cinema Speculation. Right? I wanted him to take my letter. Right? There's the autograph. Right there. He signed the book. I shoved it all the way up to his face. Right? He stuck his nose up at me and turned his back on me. And so I did the same thing. Right? Was it like, that's like, oh, so I'm so unimportant that you could just sign the book and turn your back like I was any other fan. Okay, sure. Right? And I acknowledge it was petty then. Right? But now I know I chose the right side. He's not a cool guy. He's a compulsive liar. Right? So, right? From that point, right, though I don't know. I wrote WME immediately. That's when William Morris Endeavor came into the formula, right? I paid IMDb Pro. I signed up for IMDb Pro and saw that Mike Simpson was his agent. And so I wrote him, sent him a video, says, bullshit, we're still doing this. They have all these documents, right? So the weeks progressed and his despisal of me continued to grow, right? And so, right, inevitably, right, he dug around in my head, right, for a whole weekend, right, pilfered me for all my secrets, and that's when I asked him if he wanted me to come to LA and scream at the top of my lungs, right? And he said yes, right, because he had conspired. You understand that? He had told Sony, he had told William Morris Endeavor, oh, this guy's insane. Like, oh, it's good he didn't give me what I wanted. He's not well. Right? Again, I have no cunning. I have no, right, that he operates on a frequency of evil. Right? That's it. Of cunning, of guile, of misdirection, mystery. Right? So, right, I wrote down all my secrets. I said, there it is, motherfucker, you stole them, right? And then he took that piece of paper, ran it all over town, and went, oh, ha, 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 look at that, like, look at this jackass, right? Really sad, evil man, right? And so the point that I'm driving at right now, right, is that he didn't have to turn it into a fucked up mind game. But when he did, right, and I didn't give him what he wanted, in his mind, in his conspiring mind, he thought, oh, I have to prove him insane. I have to take steps like, oh, he doesn't want to bend to my will, then I have to show that he's insane because, like, I'm the big swinging psychic dick in the world, right? And that's like the pinnacle of evil, right? To use this thing, clairvoyance, right? And the reason that he did that, right, is logical, right? Because, right, Sony was looking to him saying, what happened? Like, what happened? Like, we're ready. We're ready to make the movie. Like, why didn't you, right? He can't exactly say, right? unless he's honest. Right? Oh, I told him what I wanted him to do with my mind powers, right? With my psychic clairvoyance. Right? Sounds pretty fucking dumb to me, doesn't it? Right? So he has a document, I'll never see it, but it's a fabrication, it's a lie. Right? He refused both of the letters that I sent him between the time that he canceled the film and the screening of Jackie Brown. Right? So, right? From then, he entered into this subtle campaign, right? Alleging that he has a daughter, right? Like a secret adult daughter. Again, all trust. I'm very gullible, right? I always believe everything anyone tells me, right? I'm trusting. I'm a loving guy, right? That from then, it was, oh, I have this girl, like she loves you, she wants your baby. And I didn't realize, right, that she was like super close to him. And it's all bullshit. Like it's just funny now, you know? Like it's just a fucked up mind game to him, right? But inevitably it was, oh, she's my daughter, right? And that, right, set into motion a sequence of events that ultimately led to where we are now. Like within 1 month of me coming to LA, right? She was a whore. She just liked to be a slut, right? And then, right, by the new year, right, when I turned it all on them, right, when I started remote viewing her in a palpable way, right, then within days it became, oh, there is no daughter, there's no, look, it's all bullshit. Right? Oh, ha, 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 joke's on you. Right? So, right? Quentin alleges that I'm insane. That's what he tells people. That's what he tells you, Sony, Stacy, Cher. Right? If you recall, right? Devoted members of this channel. 1 second. We're going through this book. Spherical models. Magnus Weininger, right? Spherical models, right? So this is the truncated dodecahedron, right? Which is 12 decagons and 20 triangles, right? And so we don't have this one, right? But the newest model is this one. The truncated icosahedron, the dual. 32 faces, right? 12 pentagons and 20 hexagons, right? So, right, Sony, Stacy, Cher, right? 360 triangles, right? Is this something that a crazy person can put together? The answer is obviously no, right? That it took me 35 to 40 hours to put that fucking thing together, right? Right? That everything that I've been saying is true, right? The things that he tells you are vulgar lies, right? Oh, gosh, I get it, like, right? Right? Same with William Morris Endeavor, of course. Mike Simpson, right? It's like you're all just like, put the blinders on, like, oh, put there, he's all tour, there must be crazy, there, that's what he say. Quentin say crazy, he must be crazy. Right? Right? And I don't mean to disparage the mentally ill. Right? He alleges I'm one of them. I would say I'm neurodivergent, to be sure. Right? But my point is that you've done nothing but just say, okay, Quentin. Right? That like, what do you, as like Sony, as a company that has shareholders, right? Like, what do you have to say about his behavior? Like you say, right? Like what did he tell you in relation to me after I didn't give him what he wanted? right? It's time to pull our heads out of our asses, right? And show everyone, right, everything that he said about me. That's all. Right? Whatever he said about me, right, I have the right to know about it. Right? And it's obvious that he told you that I'm not well, right? And what I'm saying right now is that he has conspired to make me unwell, right? And now has done so much evil shit to me, right? He has no choice but to remote view me forever, right? Right? So, right? That brings me to the philosophy of the channel, my worldview, right? Space is a size, right? How big, how small is irrelevant. Doesn't matter in the least, right? You could say that it's a nothing. You could say that there's nothing in it. And that's equally valid intellectually, right? Because you can't measure anything, right? I would say it's shallow intellectually. It holds no weight intellectually, right? And so what I'm saying is that there's this thing that's called the imagination, right? And so you can make an image in your mind and have it be real and like move inside of your mind, right? At the highest level of spiritual perfection, right, is the pure abstraction of God's omnipotence, omniscience, right? So this, right, perfection, right, so sublime in its perfection, it cannot be expressed physically in any way, shape, or form, right? He who names it shall never know it, right? Inevitably, this pure archetype, right, which has been called many things over the millennia, degrades itself. And out of that degradation come two principles, right? The pillar of mercy, the pillar of severity, right? And so the two halves of this coin, right, which are equal in dignity and nobility, right, are thus. The first of which is a subspatial subatomic structuring, right? Here's one example. Right, it's a little beat up. Right, yeah, that's a nice square, right? Right, that's one example, right? This is another example, right? This is another example, right? That all of these things are nested. Everything that you see in the board behind me, they're all examples, right? Right? That's an example. This is an example, right? All nested perfectly inside of each other. So sublimely perfect in their condition of rest that it dissolves into seeming non-existence. Diffused within that is the second half of the coin, which is the celestial zephyr, right? The impetus for motion, right? Inevitably, you draw a line, and that's the horizon of your ignorance, which can never be circumvented. It's always right there. You'll never get past it, right? Every time you get a little closer, right, it gets a little wider, right? That this is, right? And so, the question that you're inevitably left with every time is which came first, thought or motion, right? If motion came first, then thought is merely a static embossment of the condition of motion upon the area of space where the motion was exerted. And this is equally valid intellectually. Again, it's soulless, it's shallow, it's hollow, right? But if you say that thought came first, right, then, right, there has to be an impetus. That's the impetus for motion, right, is the divinity, the divine light of deity, the divine light of God, right, which is not a creature, right, there's nothing to pray to, right, there's no man in the clouds, right, right, it's an abstract intellectual quality or principle, right, the genesis, the origin of life, right, so eventually that abstraction seeks to express the dignity of its omniscience, seeks to see its wisdom manifested in the world. And so it moves, right? It breathes through the subquantum, right? Probability manifold, right? And exerts a pressure. It squeezes the manifold, right? And so if you take this, right, it's falling apart, and you put a sphere around it, right, and you wrap a circle all the way around it, right, that's called a great circle. Why do they call it a great circle? Because it's a circle that bisects the volume of a sphere, right? It's not a flat circle on a piece of paper, right? It has depth, right? It goes around. Right, 360 degrees to the circle. Right? This is how God decides what to manifest in the material world. Right? That each degree, all 360 degrees, is a potential vector of pressure upon the quantum manifold. Right? So you can have an infinite variety of great circles around this thing. Right? And that's how you have the seemingly infinite complexity to life. Right? This is the dignity of Platonic forms. Right? This is the dignity of Russellian science. Right? That all things reside as idea. Right? And so the celestial zephyr, right? The divine light of deity, which is the impetus for motion, right? Exerts pressure from the outside in, squeezing the quantum electric probability manifold, right? Which has the structural skeletal scaffold for all of manifested life within it. Right? And so the dihedral, right, the degree or degrees with which the Almighty imposes pressure upon the structural scaffold, right, reflects what it materializes as in the manifested world. Right? This is the unfoldment of the divine plan. Right? And you just take that all the way down the line. Right? That the more complex things, right, that God continues to think, right, that it's a great psychic strain, right? And inevitably, you end up at the earth, right, atmospheric strata, like mineral, vegetable, animal, man, right? And so, with man, we find ourselves at the end of evolution. And what do I mean when I say that? I mean that there is nothing. The reasoning capacity for man supersedes all. Everything leading up to man, as far as, right, mammalia, have been essentially enslaved to their baser nature, right? Manly Palmer Hall says this is because their spinal columns run parallel to the horizon and therefore are forced perpetually to look down. Right? But with man, right, the first man betrayed the structure of his backbone his entire life and looked up. Therefore, right, our reasoning capacity is the highest that any creature upon the earth can have. Right? Is there extraterrestrials? Right? Are there angelic triads? Right? any advanced life that exists in the universe, if it is in fact existing, is a product of God and therefore is man. It's a different form of man. Right? There's nothing else. So we say that man's reasoning capacity is leagues higher than anything that might say we're comparable. And so inevitably, man begins to contemplate. Right? Sitting by the fire in the cave, they chew berries and then blow the negative handprint onto the cave. Right? They look up at the sky. They see the immensity. They see the mystery. They see Orion and they say, oh, that looks like me. That looks like me, therefore I must come from there. Right? And inevitably, they end up with a writing utensil. Right? And they seek to codify their experience. Right? Everything that's written down, right, of antiquity, right, of ancient history, is an effort for man to understand his place in the universe. Right? And so they create myths. They create these stories, these parables, these fables. Right? So that they might offer a glimpse of the true mystery onto their own microcosm of the blank page. Right? So, if man is the end of evolution, and space is structured in a particular way, and man can express his own eternal ideas through thinking, through writing, so religion, as well as mysticism, right, are all efforts to codify, to immortalize, right, our understanding of ourselves within the world, within creation. So, right, God conjures through pressure, right, exerting pressure upon the structural manifold, right, and man conjures, right, by the same processes, by exerting psychic pressure out into creation. Right? If he's building something with his hands, if he's thinking something, writing, right? If he's saying something with his mouth, right? What we see with our eyes and what we hear with our ears, right, becomes the necessary intellectual cannon fodder, right, for everything to emerge. Right? So God and man each do the same thing. Right? Everything that occurs in terms of religious predilections, right, are all in tune to this idea. So now you might be asking, why do I make the models? Right? Like, why do I make these? Right? If you've been paying attention, then you already know why. Right? Because each of these represents a piece of the quantum manifold, quantum structural skeleton of probability, right? And so when you take the time, each of these is very time consuming, right? This took me 30 hours, 35 hours, right? Right? That by taking the time for a number of things that weren't important yesterday. Right? You embed within your psyche, right, the dignity of that harmony, of the structure of the form. Thereby, right, instilling within the adept, me in this instance, right, a celestial resonance that taps my psychic eye into everywhere. Right? So, if we say that man behaves like he sees God behaving, right, then what they mean by as above, so below, right, is not to do weird, fucked up shit at P. Diddy's house. Right? But it's that the actions of man, right, through conscious awareness, right, can mirror the actions of God through intention. Right? And so, if God has the eternity of space as his blank page, right, then man has paper as his blank page, doesn't he? Right? And so, right, inevitably, you end up at this, and I've showed it before, right? That each of those letters of the alphabet, right, and it's not a legit angelic triad of the Shimham Farash. Right? It's not. Right? It's supposed to be a magical talisman. And it is, but it's different now. Right? That this form that goes around here, it's a subdivision of 18, right? Is just like this, isn't it? Right? Right? So this is what is embedded in every cubic centimeter of space, right? All of these things nested inside of each other, right? And so what I'm saying is that, right, if you use this, right, as a roadmap with the psychic eye, you'll find anybody, right? Because this is a subdivision of 17 equilateral triangles, right? That this lattice, right, which has the ineffable all around it, Yod Vahe, right, that's, right, like this will find anybody. Because this is a piece of the spatial structural skeleton. And so when you meditate on that, right, when you meditate on this, right, inevitably you end up on this, right, and this tells you where this is. That's the point. Right? In full truth. I suspect he'll never let me do that. As far as, right, like, oh, I'm just gonna, like, like, yeah, sure, like, we're done, but no, he's gonna watch me forever, and he'll be evil as much or as little as he wants. I don't understand it. To be sure, he resents me, right, and so he's just gonna, right, I have a lot more that I could say. Seeing all of this, right? Sony, William Morris Endeavor. Like, are you still convinced that I'm insane? I'll admit perfectly reasonably, right? Like in an instant, that I'm in a state, right? But you can't disprove me. Right? You can't. It doesn't work that way. Unless you put Quentin on a polygraph. Right? And he'll do all the research he can. If he's smart at all, yeah. Things to do to beat it. All these things. He'll never agree to it. Anyway. But that's like the only way. Any other way is just you trusting him, right? Like listening to what he says and going, oh, okay, which is obviously what has occurred, right? And for you to just, right? For you to just sit on your hands, like, what the fuck did he tell you he was doing about me? Right? Like, I want to know. can't imagine. I can't imagine. I'm so naive on some level, or I was. I'm not anymore. But I can't imagine like having the life that he has and feeling so slighted that right, he has to descend into palpable evil. Right? He has to try to steal my sanity. Like, why? Like, what have you gotten out of this? Right? Like, all you've done is prove how uncool you are. Right? And you can lie. You can lie forever. Like, sure, like, I get it. Like, okay. But I'm going to tell the truth, man, forever. And you put me on a polygraph and see what happens. A polygraph doesn't prove anyone's point. It proves that they're telling the truth. Right? That they believe what they're saying. Right? And so if Quentin says, no, I don't remote view people. I don't do the things that Brian says I do. Right? He's not telling the truth. Right? So, right, that's why I make the models. Right? Each of these are pieces of the divine hologram. And when I take the time and I take the hours, right, it manifests beauty thereby and taps me in to the divinity of all creation. Right? These sigils I was just showing you are several months old, right? That's the most devastating one of a bunch. You know? I don't stare at it. I could, but I can't. I didn't turn it into a fucked up mind game. Quentin turned it into a fucked up mind game. Not me. So, right, we're going through this book. That's another reason we're going through this book. Right? Because he's been slandering me, it's obvious. And so we're going to go through every single model in this book. Right? We're going to spend 500 hours doing it. And then, right, we'll let Sony tell me whether or not I'm insane. Right? Like, insane people can't do that. Right? That the things, like, whatever he showed you in terms of a document, it doesn't exist. It's a lie. He's lying to you. Right? This book. Right? And if you read that page, right, that's actually in my novel. He tried to do the same thing to me. And he failed. He sent me to North Hollywood, Actors Equity, and then tried to direct me up the street. I said, no. Nah, we're good. Because he wanted me in handcuffs, and then he could go, ha, 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 ha. Right? Doesn't get any uglier, right? Doesn't, like, this is, like, if the things that I'm saying are true, right? This is the ugliest, highest evil of all time. Right? I mean, I know he's got opinions about me and Tribeca, but nah, he's not cool. Can't imagine. If you recall, reading through the novel, right, it is revealed that he has a daughter who loves me. Hardy har 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 har. Right? His real daughter's a little girl. Right? And so, we'll come back to that. At the beginning of my novel is 3 essays, the first of which is on magic. Right? And so, magic, right, is the creation of a novel electrical condition or field inside the brain of the adept. Right? Constructed through intention. Right? Right? So, right? It's hard for me to keep going, you know, like everything's fine, I know. So, right, the wizard has his wand, right? He points it at his target. Bang, fuck you. Right? The psychic has his headshot, my headshot. He stares at it, says, fuck you. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. They're not similar things. They're the same thing. So, right, Quentin, right, boom. I want you to question me about cinema speculation, right? Then when I didn't give him what he wanted, right, when I didn't bend the knee, right, he pushed out another thought. Oh, that I have a daughter who loves you and wants your baby, right? And then he pushed another thought out. Right? That she's a whore who likes to fuck. Right? And then he pushed another thought out that she hates me and got pregnant with another man's baby. Right? And then he pushed another thought out. Right? That she was at a nightclub on New Year's Eve. Right? It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit to confuse me because my daughter's a sweet little girl. She's just like look how sweet my daughter is, right? And then on New Year's Eve, right, boom, when I started wielding, right, for the first time I started remote viewing, like actually. I tried to find this girl. Her name is Allison Tarantino, AllieJean_4 on Instagram. First bitch who pops up. I don't know. Does he know her? I don't think he does. But right, and as soon as I started remote viewing her, within like a day, she was a hooker who gets pissed on for $500 an hour, gets bukkake poured all over, who fucks 5 guys at the same time, fucks 20 guys a day, right? And then inevitably, like 2 days later, when I, like boom, there's the board, right? I started like doing my thing, Then he said, oh, there's no daughter. He's like, oh, ha 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 ha, joke's on you. Right? And so like that was the joke, right? To make me seem insane, right? Like, oh, look at my daughter, she's a sweet little girl, right? He has a daughter. Right? He told me Anastasio's daughter is in love with me. Right? Like, it's a real fucking novel, like 130,000 words, All bullshit. Got me good. Right? So, after that, I've been trying to come clean ever since, right? And that's why he sold that script. Did he actually sell it? I'm not convinced that he did. Right? April the 1st, right? It was because of me, for sure. Because he keeps hoping that I'll die, and then he'll say, oh, see, gotcha, like April Fools. Gotcha, motherfucker. Right? So, now that he's done all of that, what does that have to do with magic, right? If you recall earlier, I said everything that people refer to as telepathy, telekinesis, psychokinesis, thaumaturgy, remote viewing, right? Clairvoyance, right? Are all the same things that people referred to as magic and sorcery in centuries past. Right? So, Building a Coven is a novel about magic. It's about clairvoyance, remote viewing, right? That Quentin and I'd suspect 3 other people, though it could all be him, right? But him and the people closest to him, right, have been steeped in an electrical condition, right? That they've been doing their best to seek novel neural pathways of expression of electrical fields, right? That's what's actually occurring, right? And so everyone has this magnetic aura. They have this magnetic body. We have an electrical field that's radiating around our bodies at all times, right? Highest at the heart, right? Densest in the brain, right? So, right? I'm living my life, right? And I represent in this formula a target, right? That Quentin and the people nearest him, right? I suspect Daniela's involved. I suspect 2 other people are also involved, but it could just be him, right? That he begins poisoning my mind with this notion, right? That this woman loves me and wants my baby, right? Just bury me in it, right? Then, a little later, right? He convinces me she's a whore, right? And she's pregnant with another man's baby. And then, this leads all the way to, right? She's a prostitute who gets pissed on. She's, all those awful things, right? And so what I'm saying is that the 2 of them, mother and father, right, each had their own electrical condition, and their 2 kids have one that's intimately connected to the 2 of them, right? That's not up for debate, right? And so when mom and dad, right, are each pushing out these electrical fields, right, of intention, right, the novel neuronal expression, right, that when they push it out, right, omnidirectionally as a sphere, it passes through them first. It finds me inevitably. It always does, if you know what you're doing, right? But undoubtedly, pieces of it, 2 different pieces of it, right? One from mom, one from dad, right? Coagulate and diffuse through the electric magnetic condition of their little girl, their 3-year-old little girl, right? That innocent, sweet child, like he's done it. It's done. Right? That she, right? She's caught up in it, right? And it's not her fault, but it's done all the time. Everything that's done here in this way, right, is as serious as when a sorcerer casts a magic spell, right? There's no, right? It's a divine thing, right? This is the mercy seat. This is the Ancient of Days, right? I can't imagine. And I know that they don't understand anything. They don't know what they're doing, right? They have no concern for what they're doing in this house, right? On this level, right? Really, really sad how completely fucking checked out he is, right? He has, it's done, they're both trash. Anyone that's around them, those 4 people, they're trash, right? They've done so much awful shit to me, never garnered, right? He could have just paid me nothing, said hit the fucking road, right? And now, right, this is why I'm saying I'm afraid, I live in perpetual anxiety because he's up to here with it, right? We are both at our breaking points, right? And I'm cool, right? Just don't be fucking evil. That's all. Right? I don't care what y'all do. Never have. But we're approaching the Vanguard, right? Burbank. And so I said I was going to go live, and I suppose I'm still going to. But it gives me pause, Are they going to just bury me in it, So, I hope not. All I've ever done is live my life, right? That he thinks, right? I don't know. I guess he thinks that this is cool. He thinks, I don't know. He thinks evil is cool and manipulation is cool. That's the kind of guy he is. So, see what's good in your life. Right? Know that life is not an accident. Pray for me. Pray for Quentin. Pray to bring this to an amicable resolution. Otherwise, we're just mortal enemies. There's nothing, right? I don't know what he wants from me. There's nothing I can do now but talk about it. So, see what's good in your life.